Yay! I'm so excited to melt into a glorious transmission with you all today. And first, I want to thank you for all the beautiful birthday videos and messages and love notes, and just for your constant support and loyalty and encouragement and presence in my world. I had a fabulous birthday, just saturating in sunlight and immersing in beauty in my new beloved, cherished, enchanting home castle that I have managed to drop out of the ethers and into physical reality. So savoring just being in my new home oasis and appreciating my life, myself, my health, my communities, all of you. So thank you for the birthday wishes. And a couple of things that I want to tune into together today. So this is going to be a prominent part of my transmissions moving forward, because it is the access point to all true power and what I would consider superflow, true superflow. How do we access our full power, our full genius, our full light, our full love? And by virtue of that embodiment of the God self, of oneness, so oneness being the key, by virtue of that, everything in our life, in our reality, being the most pristine reflection of all that we are in truth. So if we can look at ourselves as the only one creating inside of our reality. So shifting from there being a collective or a co-creation or co-creating with the universe to being the universe, the omniverse, the omni-cosmic divine self at creation. And so there's only me and everything out here, my environment, my home, my relationships, the expression of my health and my body is all an extension of my deep, subtle, nuanced internal coding and what I have chosen to fill myself with at the deepest cellular levels of my being. And all of that light, if we're allowing the light, extends out and creates all of these holographic, fractalized expressions of who we really be at the deepest levels. So a couple of things that I like to do with this awareness is, one, immediately, whatever is arising in my experience, and this is very practical and tangible for us to interpret our reality and things that are going on, is I assume full responsibility for my entire creation. So I don't even look at how did I co-create this experience with this person. I look at how did I create this experience, because people in our reality are these beautiful, sacred, sentient, simulated holographic reflections of our own innermost consciousness and our heart resonance. It's all an emanation of us. And that's why the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree, the big grin on his face, because he was literally living in the awareness that everyone and everything that was around him was an emanation of his own imagination. And so that gave him total sacred divine authority to shift his creation and his reality by shifting his mind, his perceptions, his imagination, what you think you become, I believe is one of his infamous quotes. And so, I have a bit of a spin on this. I like to utilize the power of the imagination, because to me it's much more augmented, vibrant, alive. We can really code it in with all the lushness that we want to live in. And there's no limit to that. It's infinite potentials and possibilities that we can vision into and imagine and code ourselves with somatically, viscerally, for what we want to have reflect in our reality. So one, taking full responsibility. And so utilizing then the mirror as a beautiful sacred teacher and tool. Okay, so what is showing up in my reality? Because what is that is showing me is a pattern of some sort that I have playing out, a program that I've coded within myself, or that I have, you know, selected at some point through adopting societal, cultural beliefs, paradigms from numerous places, from our lineage. There's so many ways that we can pick up, we'll call it data, throughout the course of our journey and the course of our experience that becomes an integral part of who we are if we're not conscientiously selecting to align ourselves with the quintessential core of who we are in truth, which is infinite love, infinite beauty, super abundance, unlimited prosperity, and all that we can even begin to imagine and dream into, and beyond what we can even conceive that our expanded self knows is possible and available for us. So we have this array, or this like full spectrum of coding, we can say, so to speak, from all of the experiences that we've had through the course of our lifetime and many lifetimes. And so precision architecture in our creation becomes about precision embodiment. Well, what do I want the mirror to reflect to me? So a couple of ways to interpret the patterning in the mirror is to take a very empathetic and an observational, neutral look at what's showing up. Like, okay, this is showing up. I really love that. I really appreciate and value that I have that going on. This is an agreement or a dynamic that I would like to shift. I no longer want to agree to this showing up in my reality, or this showing up in my experience, or this dynamic unfolding itself. So what is the dynamic? And what is it that I'm looking for from the outside world? So what is it that I want the world to give me? In writing a list of what I want the world to give me, and then the mastery in our embodiment becomes, okay, now how do I give those things to myself? How do I become the deep, rich embodiment of those things, of those frequencies, of those realities, of those relationships? How do I embody that? And then, because the reality is an extension, it must show up. It'll show up everywhere. Love will reflect its brilliance in all forms because it's a unified quantum holographic field. So when a shift takes place here, it takes place everywhere, instantly and simultaneously throughout the infinite creative landscape. So making those internal adjustments and really recognizing our agreements, like, okay, where have I made agreements to things that I don't want to experience? What do I want to experience instead? And then coding in new agreements. And one of the fastest ways to let go of those old patterns and old programs is what I call strategic engagement. We no longer engage them. We don't have to do anything with them. We don't have to go and wrestle with them or cleanse them and purify them and transmute them. Just accept that they're perfect and that they have served us so brilliantly in that phase of our evolutionary journey and unfolding. Embrace them with love and simply have a willingness to let it go and pivot agreement fields into the agreement of what you actually want to be experiencing instead. So becoming aware of the agreements, loving them, and strategically engaging with the new agreements, and therefore strategically ignoring and releasing and not investing any more energy or attention into the old agreements. And they'll start to dissolve automatically because that's how the energy works. What we focus on, we activate, expand, augment. What we take our focus away from, or our attention or awareness, immediately becomes deactivated of power. So we can just pivot with intentionality and strategically towards the agreements that we desire. And then another fun way to look at this and to explore deep subconscious programming is to look at whatever we think, again, whatever it is that we think that we're wanting from the world, or why isn't my creation showing up this way? Why isn't this person showing up this way? Well, say the thing that you're desiring from someone is honor, respect, appreciation, to be seen, to be heard. This is something that we all intrinsically desire at a core level because our nature is love. So if it's showing up in our reality that we're not receiving the reflection of love, appreciation, of value that we know we inherently are worthy of and desire, the way that we can reverse and resolve that pattern, that subconscious out manifestation is to go, okay, how do I honor me? How do I acknowledge me? How do I value and celebrate unconditionally, fiercely, and powerfully me and all that I am? And then the outer reality will conform. People will start showing up in such deep honor and reverence and respect for you because you hold that energetic within your own beingness. And so we don't ever have to go out here to shift anything. All of the power is in how we relate to ourselves, how we see ourselves. So our self-value, our self-image, our relationship with ourself, and then everything in the outer reality conforms to match that. And that's the simplicity of it, because it's all just in here, in direct communion with the self. And then also, when things are, this is a really powerful one. Okay, so then another one is to look at anywhere where we're not taking full ownership of our creation. And we're saying he, she, they, the world, the collective, humanity. This is huge in the spiritual community. Because whenever we hear someone talk about, and I utilize these words sometimes in a greater context, but whenever I hear a narrative about this is what's going on in the collective energetic, this is what is unfolding for humanity, what I'm actually hearing is, this is what is unfolding in my deep psyche. This is what is unfolding in my internal experience. And so that is how I'm experiencing the collective, my collective. But the reality is what they're revealing is their actual own internal patterning, programming, subconscious beliefs, processes, self-view, worldview, all of that. There's no blanket, this is what's going on in the collective, because there is no collective in the way that we perceive there to be a collective. So we're going to shift back into that in a minute. But first I want to dial into anywhere where we say he, she, they, the world, the collective, we can, this is so empowering, and I personally love it, but I would highly recommend, if you're new to this practice, to come at it with deep compassion and just neutral observation. Put an I in that sentence. So he did this, she did that, the world is, and put an I there, and you'll become exorbitantly self-aware, hyper cognizant of your own internal coding, programming, narratives, and subconscious beliefs, and have a willingness to be with that fully, to just look at it head on and be with it and go, okay, well, where do I do this? Or where am I operating in this way? Or where do I hold this belief about the world? Because when we shift our worldview, that we shift our world, right? So what if the world is a beautiful, marvelous, magical, benevolent, loving, serendipitous place to be in? We really start to trust and know and feel and resonate and believe that. Well, that's what the world is going to be for us uniquely. And this is, there being no other, there no collective, because it's all an extension of us. This is where we get into the powerful, prolific capacity and ability to shift our lives in profound ways, to shift the actual world that we live in. So if we can imagine the mandala, if you've ever seen it before, it's this Buddha that is in an ever blooming, ever expansive, holographic, fractalized state of being that's constantly expanding upon itself and fractalizing out and opening and blooming into more of what it is. Well, we're all doing the same thing. We're all going through the same process. And so what we perceive to be the world is the fractal hologram of all of these micro aspects and facets of our own consciousness. So when we start to really polish the mirror of our vision and our consciousness, the world that we inhabit, out of the infinite realities, earths, timelines, worlds, humanities that are accessible for us to choose from, we start to align to the ones that we desire. And a great, very tangible example of this is in relationships. Who knows that you can you can experience many faces of the same person, right? And even within your own self, you can show up one day to your partner and they are just a ball of luminous sunshine and delight and kindness and generosity and sultry, savory love. And then you can show up to them the next day and they don't want to have anything to do with anyone. They want their space. They want their freedom. They want, and it's a totally different dynamic. And it's the same thing when we wake up and we have the same experiences in the same environments. So we can go into the same workplace or we can go into the same environment, and one day it feels like the most expansive, inspiring, illuminated place to be, filled with passion and possibility. And then the next day we go in and it feels dense and dark and kind of like we don't want to be there. We want to be somewhere else and we need a new environment, a scenery change. Well, what actually changed? Our own state, our own neurochemistry, our own outlook, our own perceptions, not the environment. So the version of reality and of life and of the world and of humanity that we are experiencing has nothing to do with what's going on in the collective or what's going on in the world. It's what's going on within us, which gives us full power and authority and freedom to change it in any moment. And I just want to ferociously root this into your being. You are the sole cosmic God self architect and creator of your reality. You are choosing the whole thing. You are designing the whole thing, and let it be fun. Let yourself sit with these dynamics and have fun interpreting the mirror of your subconscious, because that's really all that this is. This is just your augmented, animated, subconscious mind reflecting its symbology back to you. So when you go into your deep internal landscape, you get to design in high definition lucidity and vibrancy and color and adventure and playfulness and in the full-on frequencies of all that you want to feel and embody and experience. And the moment you make those shifts inside, the whole world and reality around you shifts to match you, which is so powerful because you need nothing outside of yourself to change your life and to change your world and to make it exactly what you want it to be, starting here now and carrying into the future forevermore. I could go on and on and on. Coming back to deeply knowing thyself, connecting to the self, knowing your heart, knowing your soul, knowing your desires, knowing what turns you on with orgasmic aliveness, and letting yourself submerge and immerse in those spaces until it is your somatic, electrical, neural signature and way of being. Because there's all these manifestation techniques, but the reality is we're always manifesting, and our reality is an extension of our embodiment. So it's about embodiment. Our perfect paradise that we want to crystallize is about us really animating and bringing that to life in our inner world, inter-paradise design. And then that leads and guides our intuition, our thought processes, our outlook, our awareness, our attitudes, our behaviors, our actions, what we flow into, what we say yes to, what we agree to, what arises in our lives, all of it. So really just getting clear on what does it for you? What lights you up? What actually literally turns you on, and knowing that being in agreement and alignment with that is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself and therefore everyone and everything around you. Because when you thrive, your world thrives. When you're free, your world is free. When you are aligned, your world is aligned. So another beautiful point of reflection is, where am I choosing things that aren't in congruence with my actual own innermost desire, truth, paradise, dreams, visions, novelty lit, marvel lit landscape that I want to be thriving in? And why am I saying yes to it if it's not in perfect synchronous accord with the truth of my soul essence and quintessential nature in all that I desire to be experiencing? And where am I limiting myself, and where can I open into infinite possibilities and potentials? If you can dream it, and if you can claim it with invincible knowingness in your being, It is done. It is so. I am. This is my new reality. It must show up by virtue of quantum physics. It must. And that power supersedes anybody else's belief structures, systems, ways of doing things, rules, all of that. So you have this power to choose and claim the fullness of who you be, who you are, what your heart desires, the totality of your experience, and the solidity of that choice is such a strong anchor. Your knowingness, that's it. You decide and you know. You decide and you know, and you feel the laser lucid clarity and certainty and purity and prolific power of that knowing. Oh, and it'll start to manifest for you faster and faster and faster, especially from the point of knowing yourself as the infinite, cosmic, divine, unified self. I'm the only one here. I'm the only one creating. I might as well choose exactly what I want to be experiencing. Those are my greatest flourishing, greatest love, greatest prosperity, greatest aliveness and freedom, and all of those beautiful adjectives that are aligned to you and your essence and your soul song and your soul symphony. And then you get to eradicate the mirror. So that's the final piece I want to tune into. And then you eradicate the mirror because you realize you're just experiencing yourself in all moments. It's just that it becomes the pure, illumined expression of your pure essence, your truthful, authentic, pure essence, experiencing your authentic, pure, truthful essence. And as we go through these evolutionary expansions in our own consciousness, because that's what this is, we just start to realize, where am I in alignment with the super intelligent, fully illuminated, divine, infinite genius that I am? And where am I entertaining or engaging other programming that's just simply not the core truth of who I be? That core truth bringing me into a greater symphonic resonance with myself, and the things that aren't in total integrity with that truth being those things that create dissonance in my system. So being in that embodiment is ultimate health, because it's ultimate synchrony through all of our systems, our energetic fields, our aura, our biofields, all of it. So let's do a beautiful synthesis and review of all the luscious, delicious things that we've explored. And thank you for staying with me on my golden thread, swimming through the infinite sapphire field of divine intelligence. I never know quite how it's going to unfurl, and I appreciate you for staying with me and being present with me and following. I love you so much. So oneness. I am the sole God self-architect of my reality and my creation. Everything that I am experiencing is the symbolic reflection and extension of my own subconscious and even superconscious. We'll get a mix of both. My own innermost coding, programming, and internal operating system. So knowing that it's all me, I can take full ownership of all of it. I can love it. I can embrace it. And I can make shifts, changes, and adjustments. The world lets me know what I desire most and what I'm ready to release. My world reflects to me what I can give to myself at a greater capacity. My world supports me in becoming aware of subconscious programs that I may or may not have been willing to look at up until this point, and I can get very clear with, where am I projecting or putting my process or my programming off onto the world? Where am I projecting it onto the world, and where can I take ownership of it, love it, celebrate it, and select new agreement fields? And being very clear in how to interpret and become aware of what those patterns are, and just having a sense of objective awareness and neutrality, and then ultimately celebration and thanksgiving around all of it, because now you've got the wisdom of self-awareness to make the shift into a new agreement. And now you're likely more aware of exactly what you want to create and what you really want to be experiencing at a deep soul level. So taking full ownership in that oneness, discerning patterns that gives way to a greater sense of empathy, because you can just own it, claim it, shift it, move forward, and which will also give you a greater sense of empathy for anyone and anything else that shows up in your reality that may be having that similar experience. shift of the world view, the self view, to really architect in alignment with the world that you want to be living in, and with the perception of self that you really want to grow into, self-architecture, self-creation. Who am I in my most vital, powerful, expanded, luminous space? And how do I architect that? How do I devote myself to giving me all these things that I've been looking for in the outside world? So, you know, and this is what true fulfillment is, knowing that you have the power to give that to yourself. That's true power. That's true enrichment and fulfillment. When it's coming from, I need this thing to manifest for me to be, or for me to experience, or for my happiness to be sustainable, that's not it. That's not the thing. It's not going to come from out there, because then you got to always be manifesting the new thing to feel that. It's like your power to choose that is the real power. Your power to give that to yourself through your own choices, and in the selection of you, to be there for you, to have your own back, to care for you, to nourish for you, to show up for you. That's the true power. And then you liberate yourself from any externalized attachments. Free. And what shows up, you appreciate infinitely more, because it's like icing on the decadent cake of your inner being, your inner landscape. You're like, oh, well, this is just a reflection of me. I'm already feeling deeply satisfied, because I'm so in my power, knowing that I created it all, and that I have the capacity to create it all directly from within, not reliant upon anything in the outside world. And because I know that, and I know how to harness that power and harness that technology, everything else is going to show up. And when it does show up, it's just extra satiation and novel experiences that we get to enjoy. But it's not the core source of power and fulfillment. Our own ability to self-source is the core power of power and fulfillment. And then ultimately shifting into the eradication of the mirror, just realizing it's me and I'm choosing the whole thing. So what outlooks do I want to have? How do I want to experience life? How do I want to choose to look at my reality, engage with my reality, relate to my reality, to myself, ultimately, when I wake up every day? Because we're not in relation to anyone or anything else. We are in relation to us, always. So what kind of a relationship do I want to have for me? And when the love is solid here, your desire to serve win-wins and love and optimization and expansion and flourishing and more and more and more creative expansion out here will just be so integral to your being, because you know that you're always engaging with your own self. So let's see if there's anything else that wants to come through. I think that's it. This is my first transmission in like a couple of months, really, because I've been so in the flow with traveling and moving house, and officially at 330 beautiful, brilliant, international, one-on-one private clients, and just have been working with my team that I'm so thankful for them. So thankful for my team, and bringing through this next iteration of my soul's expression and legacy work in this world to serve you at a greater capacity. I'm really excited about that. So much unfolding. A glorious collaboration with my brother Elijah Ray that I've been working on, and we have some of the tracks braided through for you that I'm so excited about, and now in the process of layering my activation vocals. So much has been unfolding. So I'm thankful that I could I gave myself the space for the next week to just be in the space of, well, marveling in my own presence and sharing with you. So I'm thankful that I had an opportunity to bring through transmission. I hope that you gain prolific pearls of wisdom that serve you in your unique experience and empower you to your own divinity and authority to self-architect and architect your reality and world. And to just update you on some of the marvelous unfoldings in my novel creative landscape and world. I love you. at a level that is beyond even my own greatest linguistic artistry. I love you guys so much, and I'm so thankful to be sharing in this marvelous dance with you. More to come soon. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you from the nucleus of my being. Mwah.